The Wind by William Morris. No, it is nothing, surely nothing at all. Only a wild going wind round by the garden wall. Over dawn just now is breaking, the wind beginning to fall. Wind, wind, woe art sad, art woe kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, woe art blind. Yet still wonders where lilies seek to find. So I will sit and think of days gone by, never move in my chair for fear the dogs should cry, making no noise at all while the flame burns awry. For my chair is heavy and carved, and the sweeping green behind it is hung, and the drinks thereon grin out on the gusts of the wind. On its food and orange lies, with a deep gash cut in the rind. Wind, wind, who art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, or art blind, still wanders my little set to find. If I move my chair, it will scream, and the orange will roll out afar. The faint yellow juice oozes out like blood from a wizard's jar. And the dogs will howl for those who went last month to the war. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. It still wanders where lilies seek to find. So I will sit and think of love that is over and past. Oh, so long ago. Yes, I will be quiet at last. Whether I like it or not, a grim half slumber is cast. Of my worn old brains that touches the roots of my heart, and above my half-shut eyes the blue roof begins to part, and show the blue springing sky till I'm ready to start. From out a green-hung chair, but sometimes keeps me still, there fall in a dream I walked with her on the side of a hill. Got it, or was it not spring, with tufts of a daffodil? Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. And Margaret, as she walked, held a painted book in her hand. Her finger kept the place, and caught her. We both did stand face to face on the top of the highest hill in the land. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. I held her long bare arms, but she shuddered away from me, where the flush went out of her face as her head fell back on a tree, and a spasm caught her mouth, fearful for me to see. And still I held to her arms till her shoulder touched my mail. Weeping she tottered forward, so glad that I should prevail, and her hair went over my robe like a gold flag over the sail. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. I kissed her heart by the ear, and she kissed me on the brow, and then lay down on the grass, with a mark on the mossy snow, and spread her arms out wide, while I went down below. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. And I walked for a space to and fro on the side of the hill, till I gathered and held in my arms great sheaf of the fold. And when I came again, my Margaret lay where still. I peered from high and high above her haggard breast, how we were caught and held in a loose, angered vest. But one bend of her arm died, heavy, so to be pressed. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. Again I turned my back and went away for an hour. She said no word when I came again. So, flower by flower, I counted the holies over, and cast them longingly lower. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. My dry hand shook and shook as the green ghost showed again, cleared from the yellow flowers. They grew hollow with pain, and unto us both we are fell for the sun showed drops of rain. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find. Alas, alas, there was blood on the very quick breast. Blood lay in the many folds, the loose and gridded west. Blood lay upon her arm where the flower had been pressed. I shrieked and leaped from my chair, the old showed out afar. The faint yellow juice oozed out like blood from a wizard's jar. And when I marched the ghosts of those that had gone to the war, I knew them by their arms, when I was used to paint. Upon the long wind shied by the colours were all grown faint, and faint upon the banners of Olaf, king and saint. Wind, wind, thou art sad, art thou kind. Wind, wind, unhappy, thou art blind. Yet still thou wonderest where lilies seek to find.